On this episode of Long Riders Radio, we're going to talk with three-time Iron Butt Rally finisher Kurt Worden. Coming up! Support for Long Riders Radio comes from DiscountRamps.com. DiscountRamps.com offers a huge selection of power sports products for your ATV, UTV, motorcycle, and more. Everything you need to load, haul, or transport your power sports toys. Long Riders Radio listeners can save 15% off their order by using coupon code LONG. That's LONG at DiscountRamps.com. Well, hey there, everyone. Justin here. Hope everyone's doing well this fine end of February. So last month's episode, we talked with Tim Masterson, and he had mentioned during part of the discussion, when I had asked him about carburetors, he had mentioned Kurt Worden, and that kind of stuck in the back of my mind. Like, you know, he would be really interesting to talk to on this show. Kurt is a guy who regularly and consistently finishes very well in the Iron Butt Rally on a very small motorcycle. And, I mean, some people would probably throw in an application in their hopeless class. Kurt just does it, and he does it well. And I thought he would be an excellent person to talk to for this month's episode. So let's talk to Kurt, and hope everyone's enjoying at least some kind of modicum of nice weather to get a good ride in every now and then. Enjoy. All right, on the line tonight, we have a man who has a three-time Iron Butt Rally finisher. He's done it on two Ninja 250s and a Versus 300. For those of you doing the math, he's finished three Iron Butt Rallies with the engine displacement of half of my Goldwing. So I'd say that's pretty darn impressive. Who could we be talking about? No other than Kurt Worden. Kurt, welcome to Long Riders Radio.
Hey, thanks, Justin. I didn't realize that the Goldwing had a 500cc engine.
Well, I should say that when you add them all up, it's half the.
Oh, okay.
So Kurt is, I would say, famous. I wouldn't say infamous. I would say famous for riding a very small motorcycle on the IBR and doing incredibly well on it, and to the point where I mean, the first time I saw it, my God, he's riding that, and I'm on my FJR that I've got 15 times as much stuff packed on it as I need to, and whatnot. Can you talk a little bit about, well, actually, let's start out by, go ahead and talk about a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself.
All right. So motorcycling wise, I really got my first motorcycle when I was in high school, just because it was super cheap. I joined the Navy after high school and gave up driving for a while. And that was, there wasn't any need to drive if you're on a ship. You're not going to go too far. So when I got back and got stationed on shore in San Diego, I was riding a bicycle a lot. And when I was riding a bicycle, I was riding 250 to 300 miles a week on the bicycle.
Oh, wow.
And so I was doing that pretty regularly until I got into several accidents, that landed me in the hospital. And my wife, the wonderful woman that she is, told me that I needed to get more power. And so she actually went out and bought me a motorcycle. So
wow,
that was a exciting moment for me, and that kind of got me back into motorcycling. And I rode the motorcycle really through the rest of my Navy career. Toward the end of my career, I was, no longer able to go to sea, and the Navy sent me to shore duty. I ended up being a motorcycle safety instructor for the Navy for 5 years, and I really enjoyed that a lot. If you can't go to sea, you might as well do something you like. So that's what I was doing.
Heck yeah. Wow.
So, and I continued that for a while, even after I retired, up until the point when California changed their motorcycle safety contract. And I didn't want to recertify because I was doing other things at the time. So it just realized that I liked riding, and while I really enjoy sharing motorcycling with other people, I wasn't doing any riding anymore. I was doing all my time spending it on the range and teaching the safety course. So I got back into riding more and more.
So what got you into long distance riding specifically?
That shortly before I retired from the Navy, one of my coworkers had a massive heart attack. And as he was recovering through this, he was a rider. He would ride from L.A. to San Diego every day. He was living up in L.A. at the time on his BMW, and as part of the recovery, he wanted to participate in this Ride for the Heart 1000, which, to be honest with you, I really was not interested in at all. Just I had no interest in, but I wanted to support him and I wanted to support his recovery, so I said, sure, I'll ride this 1000, and it was a canned saddle sore 1000.
Okay.
For a charity. I said, I'll ride this with you, and so that was kind of my introduction to the Iron Butt Rally, or the Iron Butt Association, and off we went. At that time, I had two motorcycles, 81 Suzuki GS 650G. That's the one my wife went and bought. Again, mostly because it was super cheap, but I also liked it a lot. And the Ninja 250, the 03. And I think this was probably in 2005 when I did that ride. I had about 2 years on the bike. And I bought the 250 not to ride it. I really didn't want to ride it, but I was doing some work on the Suzuki, and I needed parts, and I didn't have the parts for it. So when I went to go, working on the valves, and my she's like, well, you got two choices, right? This is Sunday. You got two choices. You either need to go buy another motorcycle, or you need to walk to work in the morning. Well, okay, let's go.
So what you're telling me is your wife made you buy one motorcycle and then made you go buy another motorcycle.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I knew Lou was cool, but man, I didn't realize how cool.
Yeah, exactly. So we went out, and we I just wanted to get something that would get me back and forth to work. And the Ninja 250 was new. I knew it would be relatively reliable. I tried that 250. I tried the Yamaha, the Virago 250, the Suzuki GZ 250, and there was another one I tried. I didn't really like them. The Kawasaki was the one that fit me best, and so that was the one we ended up buying.
I say, when did you buy the Suzuki? What it was? You said it was an 80 something.
It was 81.
Was that...
We bought it in probably 97, 96, okay. 97 sometime.
Okay, so fairly used bike at that point.
Yeah. Oh, I think it had 6,000 miles on it. I mean, it was in great shape. But by the time I was working on it, and by the time we hit 2000 and the end of 2002, it had 30,000 miles on it. Yeah. So not a lot of miles. I mean, I was just riding it back and forth to work. So, but I, just based on the age of the motorcycle and the reliability of the motorcycle, I said, hey, I'm going to ride this Ninja 250 in this 1,000 mile ride, because I don't think that Suzuki's going to make it. So I did, and it was a very challenging 1,000 mile saddle sore for me, right? Because I didn't work up to it all. I said, I'm just going to go out there and ride. So I show up, and off we go, and we head off, and we're doing great, right? Life is good. And I don't know if you're familiar with the San Diego area.
No, I'm not.
So
very, very vaguely. I've been there once.
So basically the route was, right up to LA, take I-10 out to Phoenix, take US 60 up to Globe, and then down to not 60, but whatever the road is, down to Tucson, and then Interstate 8 back to San Diego. And as you're riding down Interstate 8, there's a you come off of the desert, you ride up into the mountains, right? And as you ride up into the mountains, you go basically from sea level to 4,200 feet. And it can get pretty chilly at night, especially if you're riding through the desert that day. And life is good. It's probably must have been midnight or so. We're leaving out of Ocotillo Wells, heading up into the mountains. And as I'm riding up the mountain, the bike just dies. Just everything, all the lights, everything goes out. And then it comes back to life. Right. So off I go, still heading up the mountain. Everything dies. The temperature now is dropping probably, it's not super cold, but it's maybe in the 20 or in the 30s, high 30s. I'm getting up there, and I am not prepared for the weather at all. But as we get up there, the bike dies, and it just won't start again. So I'm sitting on the side of Interstate 8 out there in the middle of nowhere, thinking I'm going to die. Eventually, I get the bike started, get it up to the Golden Acorn Casino at the top of the hill, and check things out. Everything seems to work fine, and I finish the ride. So get back, tear the bike down, and learn that, hey, if you're going to ride a 250 that vibrates, you need to tighten all the bolts. Right. Essentially, what happened was
a lot of Loctite.
Yeah, the negative battery terminal came off was what it was. Okay. So, but that was that experience. That was really the beginning of my rides, and we completed. I think we completed Saddle Sore in like 18 hours or something like that. It was still a decent time. Mm-hmm. I didn't lose too much time with the maintenance problems, but it did teach me a very important lesson about bike maintenance and understanding the bike and understanding how to do basic types of things while you're on the road.
So you kind of, you have gone up you went down first, I would say, down in displacement, and then slowly back up when you got the 300. Is there a reason why you stayed with the small bike? Is it just because it's what you had, or was there?
There are a lot of reasons for me for long distance and the small bike. After that first ride with the 250, and after I went through it, I and really looked at it, and I have other bikes. I had a Norse until recently, and I've got a Centauro, and the other ones are all fairly small, other than the Suzuki, which is just heavy. I like the small bikes for a lot of reasons. They have their own challenges, but I think those challenges really equate to to feeling what's on the road and feeling the environment, and having an experience that's more of a riding experience than my larger bikes do. Mm-hmm. All right, so the larger bikes are more like I can get on the bike, I can go wherever I want, whenever I want, not have to worry about it. The smaller bikes, so there's the economic advantage. One, they don't cost a lot, right? Yeah. So parts don't cost a lot. I can get by on an IBR on the 250 on one or two sets of tires, which cost me less than $100 a piece, and 6 or 7 quarts of oil, right? The amount that you spend on one tire on the larger bike is more than that.
Yeah.
So it's economical in that sense. Again, there's a larger feel, and probably it was on the 2013 IBR. Which I was at Niagara Falls, and I really got a good appreciation for having a smaller, lighter bike. So after 11 days of riding, most riders are pretty tired, right? And even before you get to the point of the 11 days, you're pretty tired when you're riding the IBR, and that tiredness equates to a physical ability that makes the bigger bikes harder to handle as you get particularly at low speeds.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched several riders throughout all of the IBRs I've been in on larger bikes struggle with that, and most of them have fallen over or dropped the bike once or multiple times.
Just stand at the finish line and you'll see it at least once.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they grab your bike when you pull up to them.
Exactly. Right. So it, it's a physical thing, and on a smaller bike, it's a whole, it's just that part is easier.
Yeah.
So there's the economical part. There's the part about being able to handle the bike, a lightweight bike. There are, certainly a lot of disadvantages as well. It's riding a smaller bike is a much more physical activity than a larger bike.
Mm-hmm.
Because the wind that is going to hit you. There's almost no protection on the 250, and the Versus is pretty limited in environmental protection. So there's almost no protection there. So you've got to deal with that on your body all the time. And that requires a different level of physical conditioning than it would on the larger bike.
How much too is the riding position? Because especially on the Ninja, I can imagine you're well more forward than what just a normal kind of cruiser sitting position would be as well.
Well, a lot of people think that. But if you look at the Ninja 250 in comparison to the old Connies, the geometry, the setup, they're almost identical. Like,
interesting.
So take two cylinders off the Connie, crank down the cylinder size to 62 millimeters instead of 80, whatever they are, and then change the fairing so it looks sporty, and it's the same bike.
I didn't know that. But again, very little wind protection though too. So
there's enough wind protection to keep my tank bike dry.
Yeah, there you go. Glad that's okay. So do you think that gives, do you think that you have a little more fatigue during a ride than you would if you had a little more wind protection, or do you think that you just are conditioned out of that at this point?
I wouldn't say I'm conditioned out of it. It's a factor, right? It is more fatiguing. I wouldn't say fatiguing. It's more physical. And you can prepare for that. Yeah. It takes more physical effort to get a small bike down the road, particularly in high wind conditions, than it does a larger bike.
What did people say when you rolled up in 2013 on a Ninja 250 for the Iron Butt Rally?
Most of them laughed. They said, well, your bike is, and most of them were right. Compared to, like, say, a 1200 GSA, the fairing on the 250 doesn't, I don't think, even come up to the bottom of the saddle on the GSA, right? So and I said, in 2013, I did DNF in 2013. It had nothing to do with the motorcycle. It was all bad blinding on my part. But most folks, when they say, you can't do that. It's like, the bike itself is very capable. It will go and go and go. There's not a whole lot to go wrong. That's another reason why I like it. There's not a lot, there's not a lot of electronics. There's not a lot of anything. Right? Yeah. So, and in fact, I've taken that motorcycle apart enough times that I could, if I had to, take the engine out on the side of the road with the toolkit that's under the seat and put another one in.
That's awesome.
So it's really very simple.
So on my last episode, we was talking to Tim Masterson about this this bike he's getting, the Griffin, which is a whopping 14.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. So one of the things I mentioned to him was, wow, how's this going to be? What's going to happen with a carbureted bike on the IBR if he gets in? And he specifically mentioned you and said that you had some trick way of some preset carburetor settings for that would help you out when you're going into real high terrain and whatnot. You want to talk about that a second?
Sure. That was which iron butt was that? That was the 2015 iron butt. 2015? No, I'm sorry. Again, that was it 2015? 2000? That was 13. Yeah, that was 13. On the 13 rally, on leg 2, one of the big bonuses was Pikes Peak, which is at 13,000 some odd.
Yeah.
And so you had to get that bonus, or you had to complete, they had another set of bonuses, a Pony Express bonus. You had to do one or the other. And the Pony Express bonus wasn't in my wheelhouse. I said, yeah, that's a problem. I'm not going to make that. So we'll get the Pikes Peak one. We'll be good. So I get to Pikes Peak. About a quarter mile from the top, the motorcycle just plain wouldn't run. Yeah. Right.
I've driven a rental car up there. I believe it.
It was out of air, and I pretty much had to duck walk it the last quarter mile. Right.
Oh God.
So a quarter mile, duck walk it up there, get my picture, and then coast back down the hill until I could get some oxygen and get it running again. So, you don't do those types of bonuses every day, but on the IBR, you're gonna do them.
You do, yeah,
at least once.
Yep.
And if I'm gonna ride this motorcycle, I need to have a solution to keep the motorcycle running.
Yeah.
And so I did some research, and what I found was there's an outfit in Minnesota called Thunder Products, and Thunder Products makes this. Sorry if I'm giving you a plug, and you'll have to take that out. But
no,
Thunder Products makes a item called the IntelliJet, and the IntelliJet is a vacuum operated jet. So it's a secondary jet to your main jet that you can control either from the carburetor itself. There's a couple of positions on it, or if you get the upgraded version, which I got, there's a vacuum nozzle knob on the handlebars, or you can mount it wherever you want. I happen to mount mine underneath my GPS. That allows you to change the amount of pressure that is required to pull gas out of that second jet. And so what you end up doing is you put in a smaller main jet and you pull the majority of your fuel out of the secondary jet. And that knob allows you to control how much fuel you pull out of that jet. And so at altitude, if you lean it out a lot,
down. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can really lean it down and you don't get that necessarily, more horsepower, but it runs.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the point.
Yeah. I mean, it's no different from leaning out an aircraft engine, basically. I mean,
it's the same thing. Yeah. As you go up in altitude, you need to drop gas out. So,
yeah.
And they don't make those necessarily specifically for motorcycles. They're primarily their market is racing snowmobile. That's
probably
their primary market.
Very similar engine though.
Yeah,
when it comes down to it. So the other thing I was thinking of, so we hit on wind protection. I have this list of things that this would bug me. This would bug me. We've hit on a couple of them. The next one I've got is electrical power budget, and I mean I can't remember if you run LED auxiliary lights or not, but I got to imagine that bike, either the 250 or the 300, isn't putting out a lot of watts from that power plant in terms of electricity. What you have any tricks up your sleeve for that?
Don't don't use extra electrical equipment.
So what do you run? You just run a GPS and heated gear, and that's it?
Yeah, I've got my GPS and a plug-in for my phone, and I can recharge my helmet if the audio on my helmet if I need to. But I choose between the phone and the helmet when I do that.
Yeah. So the
and you're
question,
right. It's not. So on the Ninja specifically, there's about enough extra power coming out of the alternator to keep the battery charged.
Oh wow.
It's pretty low. I don't know exactly what it is. I do know that if you have a weak battery, the bike will not run. Right.
Yikes.
So
so you're not putting clear waters on that.
No. The Ninja itself, I'm pretty happy with the lighting. I use a Osram Silver Star headlight, standard H3 H4 headlight. And it it does a fairly decent job of putting some light out. I don't get a lot of light on the side of the road, and to some extent that's a blessing, right? If you can't see the deer, you don't know they're there. So
in terms of, this is kind of a two-part question, is because what kind of fuel economy are you getting, and then do you use auxiliary fuel?
I do not use auxiliary fuel. I'm not a fan of auxiliary fuel, not because I don't like fuel. What I don't like is the added complication that it brings to the bike. Right. So, and I don't know that auxiliary fuel really gives you that much more of a time advantage, given that you have to fill up the aux tank and the regular tank. Right. Yeah. So the 2-tank fill up takes time. The amount of time you save, I think, is questionable on whether you're saving time or losing time, or just, everything remains kind of static. The Ninja 250 itself has a 4.9 gallon gas tank.
Oh, wow.
Without the IntelliJet, my average mile at a rally speed, my average miles per gallon was 63 miles per gallon.
Yeah, so you got a fair amount of range.
Yeah. With the IntelliJet, it went up to 70. And if I lean it out, it can go higher, but you lose performance when you do that. So
but I imagine just sitting at a highway speed, you can lean it out until it starts to cough a little bit, and then bring it back a little bit.
No, you really don't want to do that, because that is hard on valves.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And I have on my coast to coast lost a valve in White Sands and had to ride on a single cylinder from White Sands back to San Diego. So
what do you pack? Because I'm imagining, there's not a lot. You're not carrying a lot of luggage, I'm guessing. So do you?
So there are two enemies. There are two enemies on a small motorcycle that you have to defeat. Weight and elevation. Those are those. The elevation really is the carbureted thing, right?
Yeah.
Those are your. So weight is your primary one. So any piece of weight you can lose is going to be beneficial to you, both in gas mileage as well as performance, as well as the other thing that I'm very concerned about, which is tire wear. Right.
Yeah.
So the more weight you lose, the less tire wear you have. So really, eliminating as much as you possibly can down to the bare minimum is the best way to go on any motorcycle, regardless of how much power you have. And I just, having ridden that motorcycle as much as I have, I've come to realize, what I'm going to need. I used to carry a spare chain kit with me. On the IBR, I don't do that anymore. I put in the best quality chain I can at the beginning with a brand new set of sprockets. And, in 11 days, even if I did no maintenance on that chain, it's going to get me to the finish.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the chain. So do you have an oiler for it, or do you just? I mean, do you oil it at all?
I normally do because a well lubricated chain does significantly improve your fuel mileage.
Mm-hmm.
A well maintained chain, so proper tension, proper lubrication.
Yeah.
But I use a Motul product. It's a chain paste. It's essentially the same chain paste that comes on your chain when you buy it brand new.
Gotcha.
Comes in a little brush. Takes about, you can put it on when the chain's hot. You don't have to wait for it to dry. And
Is it a once daily thing or every fuel stop or?
Once a day. Usually when I'm stopping for the night, I'll do a quick chain lube, check the tension, make sure it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
and check the tire pressure in the morning. So, and that's the extent of the maintenance. The Ninja engine itself does consume quite a bit of oil. So my first IBR, I was pretty judicious about doing oil changes and spark plug changes. After that one, I realized I don't need to change the oil. I just need to replace it.
And that's a self oil change.
Exactly, right. So at the end of an IBR, I'll go through
automatic oil change.
six quarts of oil, and
it's all new.
It's all new. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so I would be completely remiss if I did not ask you to talk about your adventure on leg one of the 2019 Iron Butt. Now, what I want to do first is read from the report, the day report for Thursday, June 20th, day 4. And this is what it says. Kurt Worden called the rally master with news from Beartooth Pass. He was caught in the ice and snow and dropped the little Kawasaki 300 Versus several times, like maybe 10 times. The Versus is, quote, banged up, and some of Kurt's riding gear is damaged. He's got a bit of road rash, but he is okay. He managed to get to Silvergate, Montana for the night. A local couple took him in, fed him, and provided a warm place to sleep. He arrived at the checkpoint fairly beat up, but did not quit. It's just not in him. Keep in mind, that is June 20th. Tell us about what the heck happened on Beartooth Pass.
It was. I mean, who would expect to be in a whiteout blizzard on June 20th? Anywhere in the lower 48 states, right? So that was a tip. So first off, I have to tell you that leg one and the 2019 Iron Butt Rally, probably my worst performance in any rally ever. Not because of anything other than just bad planning, bad execution on my part.
I don't think it was just you, because I had a terrible leg one too. So, and I think a lot of other people did.
So there were a lot of things leading up to that leg that I had executed poorly, and I had blown a good amount of my points. And I was well behind when I got into Montana and was headed into Beartooth, right? So that was probably, I want to say it was around 5 p.m.
And I'm assuming you're coming from Montana, going up to the top, and then coming back in, turning around and coming back into Montana. And not going into Wyoming.
I was going into Wyoming.
Okay.
I was going Beartooth, and then Yellowstone.
Okay.
Right? So I was going to get Yellowstone in the dark, and then head out.
Gotcha.
So it's 5:30. It's cloudy. I've been watching the weather reports. I've been getting on and off reports of possible snow on Beartooth, and then it would say no, and it was pushing the snow back and back and back. So finally, when I was on my way there, and it said snow at 7, right? So I got like 2 hours, and I'm like, well, okay, I can make that. So I start heading up Beartooth, and life is not great. It's raining and it's cold, but it's not freezing. Temperatures are still in the 40s. And I myself was cold simply because I wasn't prepared really. Yeah, I'm good in most of my gear to 38 degrees. After that, I really wasn't ready for anything.
Hmm.
Um, but I didn't expect to be in 38-degree weather at all.
And do you have heated gear on the Versus?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't use heated gear. I I put more clothes on.
Gotcha. Fair
So
enough.
and again, it works. There's both sides. It's both the electrical power budget and
Yeah.
simplicity, right? So those are the two factors that drive that. Mostly in the simplicity on the Versus, the you know the alternator's a little bit beefier than it is on the Ninja, so it could probably support some heated gear. Um, but it's not my nature to do that. That's too hard. So uh, so off I go. I heading up the mountain, and it's raining. Uh, I'm maybe 2 miles to the top, to the peak, maybe less than that, mile and a half, and little bits of snow start to stick on my face mask. Right,
Mm.
I'm like, this is not good. But the road is clear. It's not freezing, uh, and I've got another 5 minutes, and I'm gonna be heading down the hill.
Yeah.
Uh, so I continue on. As I continue on, all of a sudden, the wind picks up to say 50-ish. There's a gust.
Jesus.
And I should also say that on the Versus, I'm using a set of very hard tires because I don't want to have to change this tire.
Yeah.
So this and
Those
this
do great
tire
in the
is
snow.
yeah, they do great on the Iron Butt Rally. As a matter of fact, I
Yeah.
have the same tire on the Versus now that I had on the Iron Butt Rally, and it's still got another couple thousand miles.
Wow.
So I've got this tire that is not super sticky, and this wind comes along, and it just plunks me down on the road. So I wasn't going very fast. I was going maybe 30 miles an hour.
That's fast enough.
And I slide down the road, and thankfully, they had just repaved it in the last couple of months, so there was no chip seal in it. The road was as smooth as could be, and I slid for as far as I could go, and the bike ended up going off the road into a snowbank. Right.
Oh, jeez.
And so I get up and feel myself, everything's fine, go over to the bike. It's still running and sitting up vertically in the snowbank. I look at it, there's not a whole lot wrong with it. And I'm just like, all right, keep on going. And
did the bike even go down, or did it pop back
no,
up?
It did.
Or did
it
just...
did.
Okay.
It did. But there wasn't anything really, really wrong with it. The one crash bar had a little bit of the paint was gone, but that was essentially it. The ice on the road at the time, because the same time the wind came up, that's when all the ice and the snow started coming down. Essentially lubricated the road well enough to keep everything moving.
Yeah.
So the bike's sitting there and it's running, and I try and get it out, and unfortunately the bike is centered on the snow, right? So the exhaust is sitting on the snow, and the two wheels are not touching the ground. Right? They're in snow.
Yeah.
So I try and get it out. I rock it back and forth, and nothing's happening. And 15 minutes go by, and finally, and I can't see a thing. By the way, I absolutely cannot see a thing. I really can't see the road. I can't see. Everything is just kind of white, and things start to slow down. And I look around to see what's going on, and I see that there's a van, a white van, parked on the side of the road about 50 feet from me.
Huh.
So I walk over to the van, knock on the driver's side window. It's pretty dark in the van. And, this guy a naked guy comes out to the driver's side, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know why you're naked parked on the side of the road on Beartooth Pass, and right now I really don't care. But hey, can you help me get my bike out of the ditch?
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, well, let me get some clothes on. I said, yeah, cool. And he said, I don't
That'd be
think I
great.
can help you. I don't think I can help you. But I got 2-wheel drive on my van, and I'm like, we can lift it out of the thing. And so we get down to the bike and we lift it up onto the road. I thank him, and he goes on his way. I end up, so I get on the bike, and first thing that I do when I get on it, I try and ride it, and immediately the back tire slips out and it falls over.
Yeah.
Right? Because by now there is 6 or 8 inches of snow with about 1.5 inches of slush and ice on the road. So I picked the bike back up, and I said, well, I just have to walk past this point and I can get going again. Mm-hmm. So I walk past that point, and a couple of cars go by me.
And you're going downhill, right? You turned around and went down?
No, I thought about it. I looked down the hill, and there were 2 miles of downhill that I could see from where I was standing that were covered in snow and ice.
Okay.
I got 2 miles that way. I've got 2 miles the other way. I might as well go get the bonus and take the 2 miles that way. So either way, I was, my primary thought was get off the mountain. Uh-huh. I got to get off the mountain before the sun goes down. That's my primary thought. And either way, it's going to be bad. So I might as well get some points on while I'm doing it. So off I go, and I'm walking the bike, riding the bike, walking the bike, and I get 100 yards, I drop the bike, go 100 yards, drop the bike on the other side. But another advantage of having a small bike is you can pick it up fairly easily.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
So as it falls over, I'm picking it up, and I finally get almost to the top, right? And there's a minivan who had decided to go through this, and they're stuck. They can't move any farther. And so I put the bike on the side stand, and I get out. And there's a guy in a Jeep behind me, and this old couple's in the minivan, and they're freaking out. And it's like, okay, you help me push this thing out of the way, right? So we push the minivan, get it going. He gets up over the hill and gets going, and I get the bonus, and we move on. And so I get down the hill after falling a couple of more times. 10 is probably accurate, 12 somewhere in there. Yeah.
And were you on were you like straddling the bike and kind of walking, riding it, or were you on the side of it pushing it?
Both.
Both, okay.
Depends, right? So I eventually got in a tire track, and heading down the mountain. I'm in a tire track until I got to a turn, and I was on ground.
Yeah.
So
you can go straight.
yeah, basically you can go straight, and anytime you turn, you're falling over.
Yeah.
But I get to the bottom. I'm pretty tired, and I'm wet at this point, and I stop at the first motel that I go to, and I say I just got to warm up. So I go in, and there's nobody in the motel. I get a cup of coffee. There's a lady comes out, and she's like, "Well, what can I don't have any rooms, so I'm like, oh, okay, and she gets me a cup of coffee, and I said, I just need to warm up for a little bit before I move on. By this time, the sun's down, it's dark. Yeah. She says, well, I don't think you should probably go to where you're going. That's not a good idea. And I'm a little bit hypothermic at this point, so
I can imagine.
So not thinking real well, but as I start to warm up, I think, she's probably right. So she called around, and she found another couple in a motel. And they said, yeah, we have room. And they're only about 4 miles down the road. You can make it there all right. I said, okay, thanks. And while I'm sitting there, this woman comes running into the motel. She said, oh, my God, are you the guy that pushed my parents in their minivan out of the way on Beartooth Pass? I said, yeah, that was me. She goes,
even if it wasn't at that point.
She says, thank you. And she, she says, my parents were going to die. And so, all right, great. I'm glad it worked out. And what I didn't tell her was, I really wasn't thinking about saving your parents. I wanted them out of my way so I could move along. Because I didn't want to die up there either. So that was my motivation for getting your parents out. But so I got down to the motel. Great couple from California who own this motel in Wyoming, right outside of Yellowstone. They fed me some vegetarian chili. It was vegetarian because it had zucchini and elk in it. Offered me a sandwich, and they fixed me up, let me stay the night there, and no phone or anything, so I couldn't call anybody at this point. But got up in the morning, straightened the crash bars out, straightened the mirrors back out, got going again. Nice. The bike itself, was a little banged up, but after I pulled the crash bars out, the only thing that really, the aux lights were pointed in all different directions, but pretty much the bike was fine, other than the hole in some of the plastic, which really didn't matter. So,
jeez, what a great story, though.
So that was my miserable leg one, and
and it was all uphill from there, or downhill from there.
It couldn't get any worse. I was at that point, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to go on, right? And when I got there, we talked about it. And it's, hey, I'm going to give this a shot. And as I started out on leg two was the best riding I've ever had in my entire life, right? And the leg went perfectly. Everything was smooth, and after a little sleep and some rest, there's no better riding than perfect riding, and that was it.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Well, on this podcast, we finish up every interview with the same series of 12 questions. Call them the LD Dozen. You game to go?
Oh, sure. Love to.
Question number 1 we already talked about, but we'll get it in here anyway. Your first motorcycle was?
I did tell you what my first motorcycle was. Actually, my first motorcycle was at 1974 Yamaha 360 single enduro.
There was one before it.
Most miserable motorcycle on the planet.
Okay, so why did you pick the most miserable motorcycle on the planet?
Because I was 16 and it was cheap.
Gotcha. Good answer. All right, question number 2. Where did you take your first overnight ride?
I'm thinking that's probably got to be that first saddle sore that I did. That was probably it. And I don't know if that's overnight or through the night. One of the two.
Yeah, it counts.
So.
All right, question number 3. What is your day job? What pays for your long distance riding habit?
Really, I'm a business development manager for a small company that's headquartered out of Virginia. Which really, my boss is great, and he lets me, ride my motorcycle as much as I need to do my job. So,
oh wow, that's a good boss.
Yeah, he's great, and it's a great company. But so small company, so small company means that while we may have job titles, we all do everything that needs to be done in the company. So,
I know exactly what you mean. Question number 4. What is your favorite non-motorcycling hobby?
So right now it's motorcycles, right? So it has been for the last 15 years. Also like to do some woodworking. I like to do some gardening. Those are things I enjoy. Basically working with my hands. I like working on the bikes as much as I like doing any of those, because it's all involved with hands-on kind of fixing things. So
nice. Question number 5. What is your favorite road?
Depends on the day. I've thought about that question quite a bit. My first answer is almost always going to be California 20, coming out of Fort Bragg, headed toward Napa. And then I thought about it, and I said, no, that's not it. It's Highway 93 coming out of Jasper, Alberta. I don't know if you've ever been on that road, but it is just gorgeous. Then I said, well, wait a minute. No. So there are 1,000 reasons to like any road. You know, and those are some of the ones that stick with me. California 33 going up out of San Joaquin Valley is also a good one. So it all depends. Any road that I'm on. How about that?
That's a popular answer actually for this question. All right, flip side, what is your least favorite road?
Any road that's icy.
Yeah, fair enough. I think you've earned that one. All right, so when you're planning a trip, a rally, whatever, you use Basecamp, Streets of Trips, paper maps, Google. What's your navigator of choice?
Basecamp primarily. I really didn't, that first saddle sore I did was canned saddle sore, so I didn't do any planning. It was get on and ride. After that, when I got the GPS, Basecamp was pretty much the standard, or it was just coming out at the time, and I say, I might as well use this. And it's gotten better over the years, so I've used Basecamp. Paper maps, if I'm planning a trip, I do like looking at paper maps. There are a lot of good ones out there. The Butler series is a great resource, and Harley Davidson also has a good atlas as well.
All right, if you get a new bike tomorrow, what's the first Farkle you're going to put on it?
Got to be a GPS, and that's going to be the only one.
First and only Farkle.
Yeah, Farkles to me are complications. Complications are just complicated.
All right, let's see. Question number 9. What are your current motorcycles and why did you pick those bikes?
So 2 of them we've talked about. That's the 81 GS 650. Why do I like that bike? Well, it's a classic UJM, Universal Japanese Motorcycle. Mm-hmm. It's shaft drive and air cooled, right? So the best of all things. You got no chain and you got no oil, and life's good. Unfortunately, it's heavy and the performance is terrible.
Other than that, it's great.
Other than that, it's great, yeah. The Ninja 250, it's light. The performance is fantastic. So it's 28 horsepower in that 250 engine. It's just designed to go. After that, let's see. I bought several others, but currently I have a 2007 Ninja 250 that I use to ride around on. 1987 Ninja 250, which is a different model than the 03 and the 07. It's a bit more of a sports bike than the other two, and it's a lot of fun. I've got the Versus, which I bought specifically because I almost killed myself in Colorado on a dirt road on the 250. And said I need something that handles dirt roads better than the 250 does. So that's, I would have bought a Versus 250 if they were available, but they were only available in 300s. And then I've got a Moto Guzzi Centauro, and I got that one because it for me it's the epitome of Italian design. It's a beautiful bike. It's miserable to work on
I was
mechanically. It's got all the features you want in an Italian bike. It sounds great. It looks great. And when you're standing next to it, it runs great.
All right, so we'll narrow this next question down to your Versus or your the Ninja that you did the Iron Bite Rally on. Who made your seat?
They're all stock seats. All stock.
All stock seats.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite or the most interesting location you've visited on your motorcycle?
That's a tough one. That falls kind of into the favorite road piece. On Butt Light, I went into Maine. The IBR took me into Canada. The Big Money Rally took me into Mexico. They were all interesting, but really, for me, riding the motorcycle is not about the destination. It's about what's in between where you're going and going home. So I'm going to say my favorite destination is always home. I always like coming home, and taking a shower and hugging my wife and going to bed and getting up and thinking about where I can go next.
Nice. All right, last question. How do you pass the time on a long ride? You listen to music, audiobooks, do nothing?
It's all in my head. The audiobooks, the music, they all play in my head without any prompting.
Wow. You can save a lot of money doing that.
Yeah, I enjoy the quiet. So.
Nice. Well, Kurt, you have completed the LD dozen. Anything else you want to talk about before I let you go?
One question you didn't ask me that I wish you would have, which is, hey, what things do I really admire about the community? And one of them is that the effort, dedication that people like yourself put into, making things to make it fun for everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So you do a great job. I'm just amazed by Tim Masterson and what he's doing with the Griffin.
I can't
Walt
wait to
Fulton.
see that.
Walt Fulton is my hero. Mm-hmm. I want to be Walt when I grow up. And there are so many others. Lisa does a great job with the IBR rally. Dean Tangi does a fabulous job putting on rides end of the year and the Pinks thing. And there's just so much community there that it's just a community and there's so many good people. I can't even mention all of the great people that just make me want to, it just makes it fun.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I look at it as this is my one small way of putting back in, because, like you said, there are so many people out there who do so much. So this is my one small contribution, and definitely appreciate the kind words. But yeah, it's I do it because it's fun too. That is Kurt Worden, super nice guy, and just I would say a ninja on a motorcycle in more ways than one. So, Kurt, thank you for coming on Long Riders Radio.
Thank you, Justin.
Well, if you'd like to get in contact with me, there's lots of ways you can do it. Easiest way is to head over to the website, www.longridersradio.com. And hey, another big thank you to the folks over at DiscountRamps.com for their support on this episode. Remember, DiscountRamps.com offers a huge selection of power sports products for your ATV, UTV, motorcycle, and more. Everything you need to load, haul, or transport your power sports toys. Long Riders Radio listeners can save 15% with coupon code LONG, and that's LONG, over at DiscountRamps.com. And as always, we need to thank this show's founder, Mr. Michael Cox, but we also need to thank Patreon supporter Ron Messick. I was talking to Ron the other day, and I asked him, hey, Ron, can you give me your best, long-distance riding-themed pickup line? And he said,
so I don't know why you're naked parked on the side of the road on Beartooth Pass, and right now I really don't care.
Ride safe, everyone.